Hey, y'all, what's up? How's everybody doing? So, this week we are talking about tropes. We are talking about tropes. So I'm going to go through a couple of them. We're going to talk about what we like, what we don't like about the tropes, and then maybe a little behind the scenes about writing the trope, if that'll be interesting. I'm going to have timestamps below. You can jump to the specific one that you want, or you can watch all the way through. And remember, on this page is going to be a written out blog about the same topic. Sometimes I talk about the same point, sometimes I don't. So be sure to check both of them out. Without further ado, here we go. First, let's tackle enemies to lovers. I personally love the enemies to lover trope. I love it. It is one of my favorites. However, because I was about to say, sometimes it can be where usually it's the female main character, how she gets very annoying and very whiny, and I hate that. However, that just leads to the me rooting and liking for the relationship, so I guess it's not really a negative. If you're not familiar, and enemies to lovers is when you have two people who are opposed, two people who don't like each other. Sometimes it's so severe that they hate each other. Sometimes it's just like, no, we're not doing this because it's not in the best interest or one or the other. For whichever reason, in the beginning, they're not getting together. Usually it kind of bleeds into a forced proximity, which is another trope. And forced proximity is we're in the same area, we're together in proximity by force. And in enemies to lovers, we start off hating each other, and then throughout our interactions with each other, due to this forced proximity, we end up loving each other. And that is by far, in my dark romance, fantasy, romantasy era that I'm in right now, enemies to lovers is my favorite trope. Some enemies to lovers that pops up off the top of my head. Phantasma. I just read Phantasma. Phantasma is an enemies to lovers, a forced proximity, and I love it. I love this book. This was a 4.5 star book for me. Another enemies to lovers that pops up at the top of my head, I just read One Dark Window, which is definitely a forced proximity. I wouldn't say they were necessarily enemies, but it's definitely, I don't like you, we have a job to do, to lovers type situation. We have age gap. Age gap. So age gap is a trope, just like it sounds, when there is one character who is younger and then another character who is significantly older. Do I like this trope? Sometimes. I like this trope when it is paranormal, when he's a vampire and he is 300 years old, like the Shadow Daddies, okay? I do not like this trope when there's realism, when she's 18 and he's 40. I don't like those kind of books. Just not my jam. Usually it is always that way around. There's never like a cougar type of example where it's the man who was the younger one and the woman who was the older one, but I don't like that either. Like, my personal feelings on that in real life kind of seep in because of that realism there, and it kind of is like, ugh. But the vampires, the death, I just forgot the book real quick. So the book that I was trying to think of, Quicksilver, where it was death and then the female main character, and it was that huge age gap. I am okay with the Shadow Daddy age gap. I'm okay, 110%. I do not like realism age gaps, personally. So another book trope that has literally been in every book that I've been reading, because I'm in my fantasy romantasy era right now, is the quest trope. And that is just literally the main characters is, we got to go through the journey, we got to go through the quest to get to the thing at the end. I love this trope. There are so many different things that you could do with a quest. You can go to so many, it's just endless opportunities that you can do with a quest. I know when I am writing on the fantasy side, which is mainly in the young adult, I try to put a quest into everything. Everything's I just I into everything. Everything's I just I love it. Like as a reader, I love it so much, and as an author, I understand that there are multiple different avenues. The quest can never get old. Yeah, there's a certain archetype of a quest, right? It starts here, this stuff happens, it peaks here, and then it goes. But in the story, which is like the meat and potatoes of it, in my personal opinion, the story, you can go in so many different directions. It reminds me of romance. Like off top, romance is not one of my favorite genres at all. It's very, very predictable. The romance I do like is a romance where the journey, the story, even though I might guess, yeah, they're going to be together in the end, it's so interesting. It's filled with so much stuff that it really pulls me in. And that's what happens with Quest. There's so much possibility and so many things that you can do to really pull the reader in with a quest that it always ends up, not always, that it has the possibility of always ending up really good. And right now, I am in my Quest era. But another trope that kind of interests me is the fake relationship trope. And so usually it's two people who are not in a relationship. However it comes, they need to fake being in a relationship for this period of time. During this fake relationship, they really get to know each other, and then they end up in a real relationship. So it's different from enemies to lovers in the sense that they don't hate each other at first. It's different from the friends to lovers trope, and they're not always necessarily friends in the beginning. Sometimes they can be. Sometimes the person is a for hire person, or just someone that happens to be like in the same environment, but it's not always friends. But I feel like even though, yeah, they're going to end up together, you can spot it a mile away. Very predictable. It's one of those tropes where the story is what gets me. The journey to get there is what pulls me in, and that's the part about it that I really enjoy reading about. I'm gonna pop up some examples on the screen of this trope. I have not read a fake relationship trope in a long time, and it's been a while. So I kind of got to go back into the archives. I use Storygraph I have always used Storygraph to track my reading, thank God. So now I kind of have different apps that I've added on, but since Storygraph has been something that I have been consistent of, I can go back in the archives of what I've been reading and pull out some examples of some fake relationship tropes. But this one I kind of snuck it in at the end here because it's always one that interests me. Based on what I say I like, I shouldn't be really into it, but I am. It's like, honestly, it's one of my favorite tropes, and it's one of those things where the journey is what gets there. So let me know in the comments below. Do you like these tropes? Don't you like these tropes? What tropes should I have mentioned? Let's talk about it.